Alright guys, I'm going to do a little time lapse of doing some ring gapping. A lot of people have at least voiced some interest in seeing some actual work being done, so guys, I end up doing another time lapse instead of doing a regular video where you could hear me and what I was trying to say. But let me just kind of reiterate what I was just trying to do and accidentally did a time lapse. Okay, when you watch me gap rings, you'll notice I've got the rings in the cylinder, I've got them squared as best that thing can, but you'll see me reach down in here and physically line that ring up. You want both sides of that gap to be exactly lined up with itself, because even if it's offset just a little bit, it'll give you a false gap reading with your feeler gauges. So you want to get it lined up until you get a nice clean entry and exit with the size gap you want. Because here's the trick. A lot of times you can take and force it down in there, but if your gap is not true, if you move that feeler gauge at all, the ends of that ring are going to move. It's going to get stuck on your feeler gauge and you don't have a true ring gap of what you thought it was. I've got all these set up at 22 thousandths right now. I put it in that other time lapse, but like an idiot, you guys can't hear that. But you'll notice when I started my ring gap, I had a 19 thousandths ring gap. What I do is I have a air die grinder chucked up in a vise, got the safety taped on if you watch me gap. So I'm just barely turning this on, like this much. And you'll see me, I'm grabbing this and I'm visually watching that ring and I'm touching. And each time I touch the back of that disc, I'm keeping it as straight and flat as I can to that surface. And about every time I go in and touch that disc at that low RPM, it removes a quarter to a half of a thousandths, give or take. And here's the thing, sneak up on your ring gap. Don't just go over here and visually going, okay, I'm going to do this until, just literally touch that cutting surface lightly, don't force into it. And then if you get it down to less than a half of a thousandth to being where you want it, hand file it. In the video, you'll see me every once in a while, I'll hold this ring down with my thumb, and I'll take this little Harbor Freight, really super fine flat files. These things are super cheap. But you'll see me hold this to the table, and then I will take and run this thing right on that mating surface and just kind of square it off or clean it up. Or if I don't like the way it looks as far as being square and flat, you can kind of work the edge or the front edge or the back edge to get it flat. In the video time lapse, you'll see me doing this number. I'll hold it out in front of me and I'll push the ring together. You can see your two ends coming together, and it gives you a visual representation of how square you are on your side of your gap. Like I said, I've got all these, all 8, because I did the other 4 before I even started videoing, like a goof. Got all the top rings gapped at 22 thousandths, because after doing as much research as I could, I ended up settling on 22 on the top ring, 24 on the second ring. Should be a good ring gap for normal driving without boost. without blow by or any kind of issues like that. Also, with the 22-24 gap, I should be good to, I think they said that's even on gap, not E85, no methanol, it's good to 10 or 12 pounds of boost, which I don't even intend on going to. But on Yellow Bullet, there was many of people who said, don't lie to yourself, because you will sooner or later get tempted to add a couple more pounds of boost, even if it's just to get that extra 10th off at the track, or, you know, fill in need. At this point, you might be racing with somebody or playing around with one of your friends, whatever. You might have a little boost creep. I mean, there's a lot of different examples of what could go wrong. So let me get these bagged up and then I'll start on the second ring. Okay guys, I just wanted to show you a little bit of my organization and how I keep the rings, because I've mentioned in the videos previously, when you gap your rings, you gap that ring to the cylinder. That ring will forever be mated to the cylinder that you set the ring gap in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope you guys understood that, because I made a comment in a previous video that I'd actually seen someone gap all 8 of their rings using only one cylinder as their gapping fixture. That's not going to be the most accurate way to do your ring gap. So just keep that in mind. You gap the ring to the cylinder it's going to do service in. And what I do to keep them all organized, and if you guys have ever been around automotive junk, don't try to write on the outside of these plastic bags with even a permanent Sharpie marker, because it will rub off and you're going to be pissed off. Basically, just get you a little piece of paper, put your cylinder number on it, throw it in a little cheap dollar store sandwich bag, and then when we get done, I'll have 8 individual cylinders, top ring, second ring, and oil control rings. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were up to speed on what I was doing over here, playing with all these little sandwich bags. But I will start filling my goodie bags here second. Then I'll throw my second rings in the block, and I'll throw down on getting those things gapped to 24,000. Okay guys, I just wanted to show you. I got each individual cylinder bag. It's got the oil control rings, the top ring in each bag, numbered per cylinder. I go ahead and keep the instructions that came with the rings, the manufacturer's recommended information. Plus it'll always remind you to check for dots, because on this particular ring set, the top ring does have a dot that has to go up, which it also in turn has like an internal inside, I don't know how you say that. It's like on the inside top, there's a slight bevel on that very top ring. The second piston ring, right now I've got the second rings installed and squared in the cylinders. And I've just got all those, packaged, so that when I get done gapping the second rings, those things will be ready for assembly when I get my pistons finished, cleaned up in the ring lands, and we can get those assembled. I just wanted to retouch on the reason why I did to go with a 22 and a 24 ring gap, top ring 22, second ring 24, twofold. Number one, in a street vehicle, this is a vehicle that's going to be predominantly, and I do mean predominantly, street driven to and from my son's school, local, commute, insert true street car that I just want to have a turbo on that might go to the track 2 or 3 times a year, maybe. So the biggest thing is oil control. If you go throwing, I would say 26, 28, or 30 or larger ring gaps in an engine for high boost, you're going to have blow-by that gets past those pistons, especially in what I would call non-boost or like cruising applications and on deceleration. Like if you ever seen a high boost car and when they let off the throttle, it'll puff smoke. A lot of that can be contributed to the super wide ring gaps they have in the engine, trying to keep it from popping the ring lands. So I did a lot of research both on the Turd-bo forums and on the Yellow Bullet, and the best recommendations I got from the experienced racers, drivers / turbo builders was not to go too wide on my ring gap, so that I could have good oil control for daily driver, you know, no fouling of the plugs, no smoking out the exhaust, you know, still a good ring seal for daily use. They recommend anywhere from 20 to 22. They said when you get above 22 is when you start getting in that gray area. 24 to 26, you're cutting, you know, you're pushing your luck. Anything above 26 and you're gonna have some blow by past the rings just by design. So I know myself, and I know that there can be circumstances. Richard had issues with boost creep, or issues where the engine, you know, hit boost pressures that it wasn't expected to hit. So basically what I did was make it a safe ring gap, good oil control, definitely safe for 8 to 10 pounds of boost. But if I happen to accidentally go over 10, it should be safe enough that I won't pop a ring land. Knock on wood, because, you know, anything can happen. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do a time lapse of this second ring gap. These Engine Tech piston rings have really tight second ring gaps. This would be a circumstance. Really glad I checked these and didn't just assemble the engine and hope it was okay. Some of those are a 15, what I would call a tight 15, barely 16 thousandths of a ring gap. So we're going to open them babies up to 24. Alright, I'm going to wrap up this video. I went ahead and gapped the other 4 second rings to 24. Got everything bagged up and put up. Secure, ready for assembly. Once I get those pistons ready to receive the rings, I'm going to do a final wipe down and clean up of the block. I just wanted to wrap up this video real quick. It's pretty boring watching somebody gap rings. Just remember, take your time, do a little bit at a time, and try your best to keep it square. Like I said before, you can just take your ring in your hands and push the ends together and see what you need to do to keep it square or to get it back square. And